Today we're going to be changing the oil on this third generation Lexus LX570. This specifically is a 2008 model, but it should work the same on any third generation Lexus. So besides the old stained shirt and an assistant, let me show you the tools you'll need for the job. Okay, you're going to need some wrenches, specifically a ratchet set with some sockets. I'll get into the sizes you need once I perform each step in the video. You also need a torque wrench if you care about proper torque values. I'm going to use a driver to make the process a little bit faster, removing some fasteners. Naturally, you'll need your oil. I'm going to use 0W20 from Castrol here. You're going to need your filter element with some washers for the drain plug. You'll need gloves. This bottle will be useful. I'll show you for what later. Paper towels and rags as always. And don't forget your drain pan. Step one is to have warm oil. So we're going to go take the vehicle out for a drive and warm it up. First, you should be parked on a level ground here. I'm in my garage, so I know it's level horizontally. There is a little bit of a slope heading out, so in an ideal situation, you'd be perfectly level, but this should be good enough for an at-home job. Next, before you get under the car to do the meat of the process, you should open the oil cap. That way the oil drains nice and easy, and you don't build a vacuum, preventing the oil from spilling out. So let's open the hood, open the oil cap, and then we can proceed underneath the car and take care of business. Put the oil cap aside somewhere where you don't lose it. Okay, we're now underneath the car and we're looking at the passenger side wheel. The first step is to remove the cover on the skid plate that covers up the oil drain plug. Again, this is on the passenger side at the front of the vehicle, and it's held on by these two 12mm bolts. You could just barely see the oil drain plug right here, and that is a 14mm. So next, loosen that up. Now that it's loose, you're ready to grab your drain pan and begin draining the oil. Go ahead and remove the drain plug. Okay, while that's draining, we can go ahead and remove the skid plate under the oil filter and prepare to replace the oil filter. Okay, underneath the car, I apologize, it's a little bit awkward, but there's the driver's side skid plate that needs to come off. It's held on by 6 bolts that are 12 and 10mm. So you have a 12mm here at the very front. This is the front bumper. You have 2 10mm, that's right here, and one back there. And you also have more 12mm right there, and 2 at the very back underneath the car. One right here, and the other one right there. There's also a bolt in this recess right here, so it should be removed. Likewise, there's another bolt in this area right here. This gives you access to the oil filter, which is located right there. Okay, so Toyota and Lexus graciously gave us this plug on the oil filter housing to be able to release some of the oil that's going to be sitting in the housing so that we don't make a mess when we remove it. To take that cap off, you'll just use your extension and just loosen that cap. A little oil may drip out, but not too much. Okay, to drain the oil filter housing, you're going to use this plastic piece that came with your replacement filter element. And this is where the bottle comes in handy. So you could take your bottle, put this inside, and then press the whole assembly up into the filter housing, and hopefully all the oil goes inside your bottle. See the oil filling up here, and you want to make sure that you get a nice sturdy bottle. I tried this previously with a kind of a weaker one, and it exploded everywhere. And this is exactly what's not supposed to happen. The size doesn't really matter. There's not going to be that much coming from there, but you just want to make sure that you be able to apply enough force to snap that plastic nipple into the filter housing. As I take this down, you could see there's still oil coming out. You can also take your oil drain pan and try to quickly slide it under here. In my case, I'm thinking you're getting more oil coming out of the filter housing than normal because of that front slope in the garage floor. So there's a lot more oil pooling towards the front of the vehicle than there normally would be on a level surface. Okay, once the oil filter housing stopped dripping oil, you can go ahead, take the plastic piece out. Take your paper towel, just wipe the housing off a little bit. And now you're ready to take your oil filter tool along with your ratchet and extension and begin to take the filter off. Go ahead and dump the remainder of the oil that's in the housing out. And I'll also take the old element and just leave it in the tub with the dirty oil. Okay, your filter housing has this metal pipe in here which stays. Clean the housing off if there's any type of old dirt or residue inside there. Same here at the outside cap end. Next, you want to take this O-ring off of the filter housing. You received a new one with your filter element, so this one should be discarded. It's not advisable to use anything sharp, but I tried my fingers, very difficult to get off. You don't want to damage the plastic seat of where this O-ring rides. So just be very, very gentle when you pry this off. Take a piece of paper towel and just wipe that seat clean. Next, you're ready to take your new O-ring and gently slide it onto the housing. Take some of your new oil, put it on your finger, and just lubricate that O-ring. This will help make sure that it's seated correctly when you torque this housing back. Next, we're going to inspect the area where the oil filter element is. We're going to make sure that the seating area is clean. There's no debris in there. We're going to wipe off any type of the old oil residue out of here and prepare for the new element. Once you're happy with that, go ahead and take your new filter element, put it in the housing, and you can pre-fill this to make sure that there's oil pressure immediately upon startup of the engine. Okay, now that it's hand tight, we can go ahead and torque it down. The torque is 18 foot-pounds, so go ahead and grab your torque wrench and tighten it to 18 foot-pounds. Next, we're gonna put our cap back on with the new O-ring that came with your new filter element. So same story, we're gonna take a little bit of the new engine oil, lubricate this O-ring, seat it inside the housing, take the cap that we cleaned and thread it back into the oil filter housing. Make sure you don't cross thread that. Just get it hand tight to start. Then you grab your torque wrench, set it to 9 foot-pounds, and go ahead and torque that down. One last wipe, and you're done with the hardest part of the job. Okay, now we're back at the oil pan looking in from the passenger side at the oil drain. So we'll take our oil plug, we'll clean it off, we'll put a brand new gasket on it, and we can begin to thread it back in here. The torque value for the oil drain plug is 30 foot-pounds. So take your 14 millimeter along with your torque wrench. And secure that to 30 foot-pounds. Now that below the car is all tightened up, your filter housing is on, your oil pan drain bolt is in, and everything's torqued, you're ready to refill back with oil. So take a clean funnel, put it in your oil fill hole, take your new oil and begin to fill. The capacity for this engine with a oil and filter change is 7.4 US quarts. Go ahead and replace your oil filler cap at this time. Okay, now that you've tightened everything on the bottom and you filled the car with oil, you want to start it and check for leaks underneath before you replace the skid plate and access plates that you took off earlier. So let's start the car and check for leaks now. Once we're satisfied that there's no oil leaks, we're ready to replace the skid plate on the driver's side. So go ahead, slide it into place. You have 3 of these with the larger washer on them, and 3 more with the smaller washer on them. They're all 12 millimeters, and the ones with the bigger washer go in the recessed areas. So you have 3 areas where there's recess. There's 2 up at the front, and there's a hole in the back. That's where you use the large washer. And the ones with the smaller washer will go in the exposed areas. So you can go ahead and begin that reinstallation process now. Just install them loosely to start with. That way you can ensure that all of your holes are lined up. And obviously make sure you're not cross-threading it. Once the 3 bolts with the bigger washer is installed, you could go ahead and install the small ones. The torque values on these bolts is 21 foot-pounds. I'm just going to snug them up lightly before going around and torquing them all down to final spec. Okay, enough of that. Let's bring out the power tools. Now we could go ahead and torque the final values. All that remains are these two 10mm bolts from up here. Start them by hand, and then we'll finish with the power tool here. Now I'll just put a ratchet on it to make sure I'm happy with how tight they are. Okay, the front's all done. All that's left is the oil pan access panel. The access panel is just held on by two bolts here. The torque value for these 12mm bolts is 7 foot-pounds. Alright, so besides the cleanup, the last thing you want to do is check to make sure that your oil level is correct. So take your dipstick, it's at the left side of the engine here. Wipe it off with a clean paper towel. And measure the oil level. You want to be between the two dots on the dipstick, and that's right where I'm at. Inside the vehicle, to reset the oil maintenance required message, what you will do is, I'm going to do it in trip A, so I'm going to push my odometer button, put it in trip A, and then I'm going to shut the engine off. Now, when the engine's off, I'm going to hold that same odometer button here behind the turn signal and push the start stop button. I'm not going to start the engine, so no foot on the brake. Okay, so I'm holding the odometer button. I'm going to push the start stop button. And I'm going to push it again. And you could see it's resetting. And that's it. You're done. Your maintenance required light is now reset. Congratulations, you just changed the oil on your 3rd generation Lexus LX570. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I don't know who was so strong putting that oil cap on last time, but I think it was me. I think I need to go upstairs and work out first.